Okay, so what we want to do is remove the barriers so we can tell. Because what happens? Let's suppose you have these three decisions. These two take you way off. This way takes you toward the true reality. Yeah.
How do you discern between the astral feelings and the spirit feeling?
Okay, we're going to move on to that. Okay, good question. One of the problems is this, is that you have three decisions. One takes you toward the spiritual feelings that you mentioned. This one, these take you two different ways. This way is something you really want to be true. Okay, let's get back to relationships, because everybody can always relate to relationships. We've all been through that. Everybody in the room has been through good and bad relationships. Okay? You meet this person, very attractive person, intelligent, funny, but say you want to have kids, this person doesn't want to have kids, and mentally you would deduce this is going to create a problem. This person is a Catholic and I'm an atheist. That would create a lot of problems. But she's really attractive. I would really like to get together with her. So he has this decision. Meets this other person that's maybe they're agree mentally on a lot of things. They agree philosophically, but this person isn't that attractive. But this would be an interesting choice, kind of appeal to that. This person here, C, is really the best choice because their philosophy merges a lot. They're attractive, but this one's actually more attractive. This person has really got a lot of animal magnetism. I would really like to have a fling with this person, I think. Okay, but this person really, maybe not a real knockout, but good, stable person that would create a good, interesting relationship. They see eye to eye on a lot of things. So he's got these three decisions to make. The astral-based person is generally will figure out some way to go with this decision because he has a lot of desire toward this person. Very attractive person, very magnetic person. So she doesn't want to have kids, but what the heck, I can change her mind later on. Because she's so attractive. I mean, I've just pulled toward this person a lot. Okay. It's not logical, but I'll cross the logic when the time comes. Okay, so he has these three decisions. And he has this tremendous pull to make this wrong decision. But then he'll maybe feel a twinge, yeah, but this person is what your soul really wants. And so you tell your soul, shut up, soul. You know, I don't want to hear this because I'm really attracted to this person. And so what you do is you override the soul. You don't listen to it. You listen to your feelings. And pretty soon you even convince yourself that, yeah, you know, I feel so good. This good feeling has to be my soul. And this often happens, is that relationships are so difficult is because the falling in love feeling actually touches on the soul energy. Because a lot of people think, well, there's one special person out there, a twin flame. When I made this twin flame, I'm going to feel the soul contact with them, and everything's going to be wonderful. But that's an illusion because you can feel that with any other person in the world if you let down all the barriers between them. What makes you fall in love with a person is you're attracted to that person, and that attractiveness brings down the barriers. It isn't that you make the contact and then the barriers come down. It's that the barriers come down and then you make the contact. So what happens, why, if you're person A and you're working with person B and you're just friends, how come you don't fall in love with this person B? They were the opposite sex, for instance, and everything is set up. Well, it's because, well, maybe you don't like the perfume she wears. Maybe you don't like the way she dresses. Maybe you don't like her physical features. And so these are all barriers that are created between you and that person's soul. But if these barriers were to be removed, you could look at that person and fall in love within 30 seconds. If you were to remove the barriers.
Can you remove barriers at will?
Yeah, they can be removed at will.
But I couldn't remove your barriers, right? I could remove my
No,
own.
you have to remove your own.
So I
Now,
can
if you remove your own and the other guy doesn't, well, you're still blocked.
Okay, so if I remove my barriers, would he love me? He'd fall in love with me because he could see me?
No.
No.
You remove your barriers, you're likely to fall in love with him, but he won't fall in love with you.
If I remove my barriers, I would fall in love with him.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it. Okay, because then I would have soul contact. Okay, I get it. Okay.
Yeah, you would open your soul to him, but there wouldn't be the interplay. But when you have two people, like two atoms here, and they both remove the barriers, then there's interplay going both directions. If just one person removes the barriers, then there's interplay going one direction, but nothing's going the other direction. This person gets a fatal attraction, the other person tries to avoid it. And so, if the two people were to remove barriers instantly, the soul energy can flow. Now, to trigger in the romantic energy, the astral energy has to be clicked in. Between two people, like us in this room, if we remove the barriers, then the spiritual energy can flow. We don't want people who are falling in romantically in love with wrong people, but we want you to fall spiritually in love with each other.
I got a vision on that one.
But if you're opposite polarities and you remove the barriers and you decide to let the romantic energy flow, then even that can happen. If you don't want the romantic energy to flow, if it's dedicated to one person, then the spiritual energy can flow if the barriers are removed. But the barriers have to be removed. Okay, so what are the barriers? Let's list them.
So your question is, what are the barriers to soul? What are the
What are the barriers we have to remove to reach the soul?
Beliefs.
What?
Beliefs.
beliefs?
Beliefs.
Conditioning. Judgment.
Likes and dislikes.
Beliefs, conditioning is part of that.
Yeah.
Judgment.
Now, a belief is okay if it's a true belief, isn't it? Or is it?
You don't need
Belief is still part of personality.
Yeah, judgment. There's two categories of judgment.
That's the mind judgment.
it. The likes and dislikes.
There's a positive and negative type of judgment. The negative judgment is what I call a limiting judgment, where the father says to the son, "Son, you're never going to amount to anything." Okay, that's a limiting judgment on the kid that has a bad effect on him throughout his life. Often that the kid has to overcome. But the positive judgment would be what I call discernment. When you use discernment to be able to judge a right path to take, that's the positive aspect. But the negative aspect of judgment is to judge, put a person in a box because of who you think he is. That definitely creates a barrier.
JJ, another way of looking at your judgments is when you say like that you don't like their perfume. Our likes and dislikes of various things of the world, that judgment, that like and dislike as the means to make a choice is rather crazy as well.
I only have my likes and dislikes to choose from, though. I mean, if I like potato salad or if I don't like potato salad, that is my choice.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about but if you don't like potato salad, you're not going to eat it.
And if I don't like your perfume, then I don't like your perfume.
But then if that means you don't like the person and you're not going to engage that person or you're not going to gain anything from them, then that judgment is standing in your way.
Certain amount of truth in that. Let's take what happens when two people really do fall in love. Oftentimes, people fall in love, two strangers will meet, and all of a sudden chemistry will strike. And the guy may be a serial axe murderer or something. But, you know, this poor little gal, she doesn't know that. He comes off with all kinds of charm, and she lets down her barriers. And boy, nobody's fallen in love with me, the axe murderer, forever. So he lets down his barriers, and they're both extremely charming. Neither one of them are making any negative judgments about the other. They look at each other, and when they look at each other, what do they see?
Perfection.
They see perfection. I'll write that down. Perfection.
Is an obstacle.
Okay? When two people look at each other and they see perfection as they look in each other's eyes, they will instantly fall in love. At that moment, when they see perfection in each other, the spiritual flow will circulate. And if there are opposite polarities open to a relationship, then the spiritual flow will pull in the astral energy and create the romantic love with it. If they're committed to somebody else, then they'll just have a spiritual experience together. Okay, reminds me when Artie and I fell in love. I posted this one time, but I was giving a class and I got up and I was going to talk on something, I can't remember what it was. And I looked down in the audience and there she was looking at me. And she looked at me with such anticipation in her eyes, like she thought I was the most wonderful person in the world. And I could see it when I looked at her eyes in the audience. And I had my speech kind of outlined, and I tore it up and threw it in the wastepaper basket, and I thought, this isn't good enough for what she wants. I got to talk about something else. So I talked about divine carelessness. And it was the best class I'd ever given in my life. She really pulled it out of me, and we fell in love pretty much that instant when I just looked in her eyes and saw that she saw perfection in me. When she saw perfection in me, what I was going to give her wasn't perfect, so I threw it up, threw it away, and I give her something much closer to perfection.
Isn't that infatuation though? When you see perfection in the other person, it's not
Well,
real.
infatuation is more
It's a
astral.
mental construct.
Infatuation,
A mental what?
Construct.
when there's soul energy involved, you're contacting a real energy. Now you can take this and even have it happen with an axe murder, you know, but what happened was real because you saw perfection in that person for that instant, and that person saw perfection in you. When that happens, there can be a tremendous sharing, and you don't have to be perfect to have it happen. But it was a real thing. Now, what creates infatuation is more like a rock star comes into town and you know, infatuation is pretty much a one-way thing. And a rock star comes into town and you're idolizing them and you would go to the end of the world for this rock star type of thing. That would be more infatuation, the way I'd look at it anyway. But with these two people, they're two very imperfect people, but they saw perfection in each other, and this caused the circulation of the energy. And it was real. But they may interpret it wrongly. They may think, boy, this person is probably perfect in everything he does. And then as they get to know each other in the real world, they begin to see, man, this person only changes his socks once a week, or this person doesn't use deodorant, you know, and all this, and pretty soon these are barriers that get in the way. And by the time they got a list of about a dozen of these things apiece, they'll wonder, well, what did I ever see in this person? Boy, I was really out of my mind ever feel any love toward this person. And it's because for that instant, they saw the perfection. But when you get to this point where you got these 12 things tabulated, he's got 12 things wrong, she's got 12 things wrong, and these 12 things are now barriers, and there's no soul contact, there's no circulation of energy, they almost hate each other. And they can't understand why. Why in the world did I ever feel that way? I know I could never feel that way again, but they could. All they have to do is forget, pretend eliminate these 12 things that they don't like about each other, look at each other again,
That's the judgment.
see the perfection again, and they'll fall in love all over again. And it can happen in 30 seconds.
That's right.
If they're willing to drop those barriers, those 12 little things. He watches football, he doesn't pay any attention. Well, forget about it. Forget that he watches football. Well, she goes to play bridge every Sunday night or whatever, and doesn't pay any attention to me. Come home, there's no dinner. Okay, this is a barrier. Drop all these barriers and only see the perfection, and instantly the soul energies interplay all over again, just like they're just falling in love.
Okay, so when I meet him, and I think I see perfection in him, how do I know that I'm not mental construction?
Yeah, I just want to say something before you ask that question.
I don't know questions.
I don't, but if I put this in, it might answer the question. I want to go back to with Artie in the class, and when the pop star and his comment about infatuation, because infatuation to me is a mental construct that says this person has something that I think they have, and I'm open and I've put them in a certain position, and so that anticipation is an infatuation in a sense. And it's registered and picked up, and maybe whatever happens. But to me, what we're talking about is a mental construct of what I want that person to be.
Not who they really are.
And they're not that. You know, I want this axe killer to be something he isn't. You
Right.
know? And so where we get stuck is why we see perfection to me is because I've got a mental construct about it. And so I want it. That's the thing I want.
So that's my question.
The filter.
That is your question, you
Now,
see?
let me make a couple comments and vote.
They're all relative anyway. I mean, if you made it up, or
Yes, it is. But it's
Let me make a couple comments, maybe they'll head us the right direction. Okay,